Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I'm Katie, and I'm joined by Bonnie, Leah, and Denise talking about our one cool movie thing. Bonnie already talked about Kathleen Shannon, but before we dive back in, let's get to know something random about our gal pals. My question for you guys is, if you could go back in time, what year would you travel to? Bonus points if you point out why you would like that era filmed.
Oh, it's the bonus part.
Bonus points.
Wait, I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Okay, all right. So, the countryman side of my family in genealogy is quite interesting. I can't remember if I talked about them on the podcast or not, but they're quite weird. Okay, so I think it's like 7th, 8th, or 9th grandfather was in Ripley's Believe It or Not. And he was in Ripley's Believe It or Not because he had 9 sons in George Washington's army, but one of them was a Tory. Guess which one I'm directly related to?
The Tory.
The Tory! So the motherfucker that said, no, I'm siding with Britain, and I'm going to Canada, and we're back. He actually decided to eventually, well, through children, they decided to come back and move to Iowa. I always wanted to know, why did he decide to side with the British, and why did they decide to come back? Like, those are the two time travel questions that, like, because that you're not going to find in a census, that you're not going to find in a DNA thing. I need to know the why. So I would probably pick the original Tory motherfucker, because that one really, like, I feel like if I know that story, that maybe I can get an essence of why they changed their mind. And to tie it into a movie, apparently there's a movie called Drums Along the Mohawk that was the Mohawk River story, where my ancestors were, where they were fighting and battling and all that kind of good stuff right before the 1776. I have not yet watched that movie, but that's what I would pick because I want to know that stupid story. I feel like it's interesting as hell.
It does sound interesting. Oh, yeah.
My family doesn't like that story. I find it amazing.
What? Why not?
Because they feel like, oh, we're not true Americans. I'm like, we came back.
Yeah. Hello. We're not responsible for what they did in the past.
Exactly. It makes a good story, though.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what you like?
Yeah. What are you girls thinking? Dun, 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 dun.
I there's so many different eras, but I was thinking the 1930s mainly because
music? No, I'm just kidding.
The clothes, it was right before World War II, and I would like help organize all the resistance.
Right, there you go. Yes, nice. I like it.
That's my thing. But I have to go back to what you were saying about family. I have family who lived in Chicago.
Yeah,
and their names were found in Al Capone's little black book.
Ooh,
so we don't know if Aunt Wilma was a prostitute,
right,
or just
a bookie.
We don't know.
Owed money.
But she had a screen test when she was in the 30s, and Al Capone seemed to like her. So
interesting.
And she outlived, I think, 4 husbands. So she did okay for herself.
I think so. That's a good story too.
I think it'd be interesting to find out about. I just think it would.
Anyways,
like it. That's that.
That would be fun. Bonnie, what are you thinking?
Everyone's always staring at me.
It's because you got those cat ears on.
Yeah. I don't know. Going back in the past is like, there's diseases.
That is fair. I never think of that.
Like syphilis. Everywhere. I mean, I feel like I could avoid that, but
I would think so.
Well, you can just visit for like a minute. You're immune.
Right.
You're immune.
And you're in a plastic bubble.
Yeah. I'd like to see I almost said Harriet Tubman. I don't think that's the right one. No, Surgeon or Truth. Her anti-woman speech.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
The way they've written it down, it's someone wrote it down wrong. They put it in like Southern black speech, but she was a slave in the North, and her owners were Dutch, so she had a Dutch accent.
Right. To hear exactly what she sounds like, unlike what is written down. Oh, that'd be fascinating.
And then I'd like to also hear be in the courtroom when Susan B. Anthony got arrested for voting, and the judge made the worst decision of his life and asked her if she had anything to say about it. And she shot him down.
Oh, it was glorious.
Like, I want to just be in the back of the room and go, damn!
Exactly.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Those are two great moments.
Yeah. Oh, geez, guys. I've been so fascinated by your answers. I've really not been thinking.
You're like, oh, yeah, I bought myself all this time to think of my...
I think I would probably be the 1930s, too. I'm very fascinated by that time period.
It's a good time.
I've been straight up obsessed with Peaky Blinders.
Oh, that'll do it. Yeah.
Right. Post-World War I, that period.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with the costuming. I just love it.
Gorgeous.
I know,
See?
right? That's why I thought film, too, when I thought history.
There you go.
So,
Yeah.
I like it.
that's my answer.
Slowly, sidebar, I started watching Carnival Row. Has anybody started watching Carnival Row? Okay, it's Orlando Bloom. It's interesting. It's a futuristic Victorian take. It's not really quite steampunky, but it's what if fae folk were also in Victorian England, and basically, you know, it's all hell breaking loose.
So it's historical fiction.
It's historical fiction, and you kind of look at it as race relations.
Ooh, interesting.
It's starting to kind of have... I'm not all the way done with it, but it feels like it's trying to say... It feels very Brexit, should I say. That's what it feels like. But it's fairy folk.
Okay.
And then human beings. And I'm like, oh, all right. I'll get into this for 8 episodes.
Sounds interesting.
And the costuming is fantastic, though.
We just finally started watching Hannibal. So as much as I'm super loving this, I'm also like, I could be watching Hannibal.
I'm only 2 episodes done away from Carnival Row. So yes,
gosh,
this is how much I love you guys.
right?
The greater good.
But no, I loved hearing about Kathleen. That's fascinating. I love all of you always bring something I've never heard of.
Yeah.
But
It's
cool.
fun.
it is super cool.
Who do you have for us, though?
Well, I totally
Yes.
did that thing I do
Do that thing.
where I rebel against whatever everybody else is doing. I want to point out that we don't always know what each other's doing.
Correct.
So
Yes.
it's not intentional, but I don't have one person for you guys. I kind of wanted to more think about a concept.
I like
and
it.
What I wanted to talk about is, do you think romantic movies, romantic comedies are bad for women?
Dun, dun, dun. And you brought research along with
Short
this as
answer,
well,
yes.
haven't you? There you go.
Well, I'd love to hear some thoughts, though, before I get into
Okay,
it.
that's fair.
Some of them are good. There's some bad ones, but some of them are good. Like Bridesmaids, I think it's
Bridesmaids. Yes, I love that one.
A romantic comedy,
Right.
I don't see that as a romantic comedy.
I just see it as a straight comedy generally,
Well,
but it's centered around a wedding.
Yeah, there's
But the
guy's not in it
romance
that
is
much.
between the police officer
True.
and the maid of honor.
That's right. That's right.
So
Gotcha.
It's and how you define what a romantic comedy is. Like if it's a comedy and it's usually like geared towards a women audience, and then there's some romance involved that's somehow automatically romantic comedy. I like the one someone asked if Princess Bride is a romantic comedy.
It's a good call.
Because usually it's not, but it's a romance and it's a comedy. So
right?
it's like
it's not a romantic comedy though. There's more to it than that. There's too much. It's not just about the two main characters.
In the
people are like,
video
it's
store,
fantasy comedy.
in the video store we put it in fantasy.
Yeah,
So I mean that's how we got around.
that would make sense.
It's one of those
categorizing
like,
Princess
is a
Bride.
hot dog a sandwich?
It's in a bun.
You know,
These are, but you know what?
can't
We're
go
solving.
there.
We're solving the world here, one question at a time.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking of all the 80s and 90s stuff with Tom Hanks, who I adore, but it always is the same formula. It's the man is in charge.
Right.
The man is the one who decides. And
Right.
the woman is like, save me. And she saves him right back, with Pretty Woman and all that, which are very entertaining. But in the big scheme of things, no, that's really insulting to women.
Right, exactly. What does it show me about being a woman in a relationship?
Yeah.
That I got to be a hooker with a heart of gold?
Yeah,
Wait a second.
yeah. I love those movies. They're a lot of fun.
Right, yes.
But they're not going to push us forward in any way, shape, or form.
I think I kind of think, and would you say that chick flicks are kind of really close to this category too? Rom-coms, chick flicks. I feel like they overlap, but I think I'm being lazy about it, basically. I treat them the same as I treat sports movies. I enjoy them for the fun, of it, but I don't take any of them seriously, and I don't play the sport, and I don't date. So I'm not really learning life lessons from either of them. Turn brain off.
My thoughts went along the same path as all of yours. Like, what does it say about us as women? What does it say about what we feel in relationships or what we expect from relationships?
Right.
That's a big one.
Is it planting seeds?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But the thing that surprised me that I'm going to talk about first is how it actually impacts our safety.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Messages that are...
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, that are emphasized.
Put yourself in danger. Somebody might rescue you.
Right. Well, in the very first example I read about was There's Something About Mary, and how he tracks down his teenage crush. And this is where you guys are going to have to recall movies for me. We were just talking about how I don't. But he pursues her relentlessly, right?
He stalks her.
He's
stalking her.
Hires
Pretty much
an investigator, stalking.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't go to stalk her to hurt her. So that's the difference.
Sure, that's the intention of the comedy.
Yeah.
But not clinically. Legally.
Yeah.
Well, it talks about how a plot of many romantic comedies are that the boy wants the girl, the boy chases the girl, and the boy gets the girl.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they did some research where they showed people 2 different sets of films, actually 6 different sets.
Oh, gotcha.
So they had 2. They had There's Something About Mary and Management. You were talking about that one, Bonnie, right? Management before we started?
I don't think I know.
Is that the one with Jason Bateman and the kid that had
No,
hypochondria?
That's Switch.
Oh, okay.
Switch. Okay.
Just
I
kind
thought
of it's
Management.
still. I think it falls in these.
It's
lines.
really close to the same category.
It's a guy wants a girl,
Right.
girl's not interested.
Right.
Thing.
So I guess I don't know what
Yay.
Management is.
I don't either.
I remember Anger Management, but that's a different
There's
movie.
Anger
Yeah.
Management.
But
Gotcha.
There's Something About Mary and Management were supposed to be like the stalking pursuit from a romantic perspective.
Okay, gotcha.
And then they also had people watch Sleeping with the Enemy and Enough.
Oh.
So scary.
Oh, those are
persistent
both
pursuit.
nightmare fuel right there. Yeah.
And then they had people watch March of the Penguins and Winged Migration.
Oh, okay. I see the pairing. Both Penguin movies, documentaries. One Morgan Freeman.
So after they watched all of these movies, they did a survey, and it assessed how much they endorsed stalking myths.
Oh, gotcha.
So like false or exaggerated beliefs about stalking that minimize its seriousness.
Oh.
Like how did it affect that? So if somebody endorses these myths, that means they take stalking less seriously.
Right.
And what they found out was that women that watched the rom-coms were more likely to accept the behavior as normal.
Oh,
That
gotcha.
makes total sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've gotten used to it. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
the people that watched the scary movies, or after watching them, they took stalking seriously. But after watching
Right.
rom-coms, that like subconsciously suggested to them that stalking isn't scary or unacceptable. It's romantic, guys.
Right, exactly. It's almost subversive in that way, because horror movies are over the top. You scream, your blood rushes, you have an actual reaction that you're just like, oh, I don't like being scared or I like being scared, but you're aware of what's happening.
Right.
Where rom-com is like, it's in there.
Well, yes, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. And I'm
Yeah,
not
fair.
saying that I believe this.
You're
because
good.
I am quite the feminist, just ask my husband. But, in the romantic comedies, the man is not threatening her physically.
Right.
It's so what it would be nice to see, and of course then it wouldn't be a romantic comedy, would be the man not getting her and it being okay.
Right, exactly. The just being friends at the end.
Yeah. And it's okay.
And it's fine.
Well,
Right.
That's just not a romantic comedy then. So that kind of defeats the whole thing.
Exactly.
we'll talk about that later because I want
okay.
to kind of
she has more.
I want to kind of end with what we think can be done to make these movies fun, but also more representative of what women need and who women are
And healthy.
and healthy.
Yeah.
Because they said the impact of this study is that it's important to trust your instincts when it comes to stalking or feeling not safe.
Right, yeah.
And that watching those will they're concluding that if you're more accepting of it, you're going to trust your instincts less, and that's going to be more dangerous. So.
And you're going to think it was fine for, the Jennifer Aniston movie. She didn't get hurt.
There was a good meme that's been going around on Facebook about, a kid comes home and he's sad because he asked, what's her face out? And she said no. And mom's like, well, you know what you have to do, right? And he said, yeah, I know. Try harder. And she's no. She said no.
Right. Back away.
That means no.
That means
like it's just
leave her
not.
alone.
That's what we've taught young boys is to just
Right.
keep trying. No. No means no.
Exactly.
Not just with sex. No.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I think that's why it's good for us to have this conversation and people to have this conversation with their children, because that's what they talk about at the end of their little analysis of the study, is just being aware of what you're consuming and how it might impact what you're thinking.
I've even thought about it as I'm watching TV or commercials with my kids, if it's something that I don't agree with, that I vocalize it.
Yeah.
So that it can be either a learning tool or be okay, so mom's crazy. That's fine. Either way. I mean, I kind of have no filter. But at the same time be that's not right.
Yeah.
Or that's sexist. Just hold on a second. And I think calling it out, just it helps me anyway, kind of rewire that stretch. But at the same time, I'm it's a little parenting moment.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been noticing a lot the stalkery kind of stuff in songs.
Oh.
With
My girls have a
older
list of
songs.
all the stalker songs. It's their favorite pastime.
Stuff just things that are people don't even think about, that not Margaritaville, but something
The
like
Last
that.
Shaker of Salt. Well, I mean, there's all the police songs.
Margaritaville.
There's
What is
Don't
that?
Stand So Close to Me.
It's some song where the guy's looking in the classified ads, because this is a song from
Escape?
Yes.
Oh,
Where he's
gotcha.
Oh, I'm gonna cheat on my wife. And then
That's from the
I'm going to meet
70s,
her.
isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to meet her in a bar, and guess what? It was my wife. She
my
was
wife
going
who
to cheat on me
answered.
too. Isn't that just romantic?
Oh, great.
I'm just oh,
You two belong together.
Pina
this
colada.
is so pina colada. That's
Yeah.
Oh, it is the Pina Colada song?
Yeah.
It is
That's
the
what
Shaker of Salt song. I never listen to really what they're saying. I just,
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that.
If you like pina colada.
That's the only part I know.
That's what it-
And getting lost in the rain or something?
Or something like that.
You like
can't be
cheating
into
on your
yoga.
wife.
Without knowing the Pina Colada escape song?
Well, that kind of plays into the second part of that safety
right.
thing, is the message of so many of these movies is love conquers all.
Right.
And it just makes me wonder how much bad behavior people accept because they have this thought in their mind that love conquers everything.
But I love
The
it.
love of the man.
Right.
What about the woman's love?
Right.
What does she get to decide?
What about acceptance for who you
Yeah.
are as a complete person, not what you want to be?
Are
Yeah.
there any romantic comedies where the woman is stalking the man?
No, because we don't do that.
Well,
Relentlessly pursuing. I think they're scary movies where the women
Right.
are
there's
stalking.
one
Yeah,
like the
Fatal
90s.
Attraction. Yeah.
There was there's Fatal Attraction. There was the How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, but that one's
Love
different.
That movie.
She's writing an article though. She's researching how to be dumped though.
And there, and
But
that's
there's
actually
that.
more. That's actually more of a equality
Yeah.
one.
It is. But she ends up falling for Matthew McConaughey, and she is beating herself up for being all girly and doing things that she said she wasn't going to do. So she feels like she ends up losing herself a little bit when she finds Matthew McConaughey. And I was like, oh, you almost had me. You almost had me. But they had to wrap it up at the end. And a lot of this comes to storytelling. The what's the main point of the story? And if you have a romantic story, the end of the day, your goal is it's a love story. Two characters fall in love. So you're setting yourself up for this.
But doesn't it kind of always, because, was it you that said, a romantic comedy, you got to get the guys in there.
Right.
Because the women want to go see these romantic comedies. How do you if it always ends up with the guy saving the day or the guy being the one who makes the final decision,
Right.
that appeals to the male ego.
Right, exactly. And they're not always there. They're not usually the one buying the ticket.
Yeah. And my question is, people have evolved.
Right.
Do we still need that?
I think the question there is who's paying for the budget of the movie? Who's greenlighting the
Yeah.
movie?
And they're still older people.
Correct.
Older men.
Older men.
Got it.
Yeah.
Walter White man.
I know. There's so many different movies that could be made. And a lot of times it's like, oh, well, I'll greenlight this if you have, you know what I mean, this character.
As long as we put this in it and make sure that the guy gets his ego stroked.
Exactly.
And you know what? That's insulting to men.
It is. It really, really is.
Because I know some fantastic men that would never think that way.
Yeah.
I married one. I'm so lucky.
See.
So.
Actually, the RBG movie. Oh, crap. The one with Felicity Jones. What did they end up calling that one? Battle of the Sexes?
Yes.
Is it Battle of the
No,
Sexes?
it's
That's
not
a
Battle of
tennis
the
one.
Sex. That's a tennis one.
No.
Yeah.
On the basis of
On the
sex.
basis of sex. There we go.
Yeah.
That one has a very interesting story about Armie Hammer's character, RBG's real life husband, Marty.
Yeah.
He
was
Marty
awesome.
is amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
He was very awesome, very much a feminist, but also very supportive of RBG. The notes came from the studio that the man was too pussy whipped, as I believe the actual term that they used. Now, what the director and the screenwriter said is, we gave this to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The only note she gave us back was to make Marty more sensitive and more helpful. So RBG didn't change any of her stuff. She didn't touch it. She barely gave Felicity any notes, which she didn't like. I can tell that. But she was really militant on making sure that Marty's character is right because it was a new dynamic that cinema and people had never seen on film before of a man truly supporting his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they supported each other. Like it
They
wasn't
did.
just-
She
it's
supported
that
him.
anymore.
He supported
Yes.
her. Oh my gosh. Isn't that what a relationship is about?
It's what a real relationship is, and a very successful relationship as well. They did amazing things together. I mean, he went through cancer twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, Katie, back at you.
This is a great
This
conversation.
was my trick.
Exactly.
I was hoping for this.
I was loving it.
Work for me. And I actually have an amazing segue based on what you guys were talking about, but I cannot leave out my last little thing about how men are portrayed in movies, which is not fair, and how it affects women. And do you guys remember Love Actually? That movie?
Yeah, it has been a very long time.
Yeah.
I have never been able to sit through the whole thing.
Is it Hugh Grant?
Yeah, Hugh
Yeah,
Grant,
it's like
Liam
an
Neeson.
Oh, it's the full ensemble.
Yeah,
right,
a whole bunch
okay.
of wonderful actors.
Got it.
But in it, I think it is, I know it's Keira Knightley's Juliet, and it's Bradley Cooper, right?
Okay.
So he's the best man at the wedding, and he makes a video of the wedding, and then he reveals at the end that it's all about her and confesses his love to this married woman.
Sweet.
He's married
On her
his
wedding
friend.
day.
Yeah.
Like a little bit after her wedding.
There's
make it
nothing manipulative about that.
Fully awkward. It's just to make her feel bad at that
Yeah.
point.
So
Yeah.
they were highlighting how that really reinforces the nice guy emotional manipulation, which gets reframed as romance.
Uh-huh.
Don't
My
even get me
ass.
started on the nice guys, man. These nice guys
Uh-huh.
are not nice.
Not generally.
like,
I don't know if I've ever heard a nice guy go, but I'm a nice guy. Like, it's always the assholes that are
you
like,
have
but
to
I'm a nice guy.
tell people you're a nice guy.
Correct.
No, that it's all manipulation.
Yes.
I don't see, there's nothing else about it but manipulation.
Right. Exactly. It's also, if I say it enough, maybe it's true one day.
Maybe.
But I
I've
mean, I can
also-
repeat that I'm a princess over and over again, and no Tiara shows up.
I'll get you
So,
one.
yay!
And a t-shirt that says about syphilis.
I vote for syphilis.
I never see that in romantic comedies, though.
What, syphilis?
Not?
Votes for syphilis.
Maybe
no.
that's what it needs more of.
Right.
I feel like we got a really good bridesmaid moment where we got some diarrhea in the street.
Right.
That was classy.
Well, I'm gonna give you guys a little hope.
Okay.
Because you
Hope.
guys were talking about how women aren't properly represented, men aren't properly represented in rom-coms.
Yeah.
Because it is really formulaic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need to have two characters fall in love. You're just showing that courtship part of romance.
You're not
And
showing a whole relationship.
You generally have 90 minutes, so that's about all you can do.
Yeah.
So recent research has shown that television series are doing a much better job of showing
Yeah.
romantic
Yeah.
relationships
You can show the nuances.
and nuances and complex characters and going beyond that courtship
Yeah.
phase of a relationship.
What happens
And-
when you have your fight?
and characters that have other interests besides each other.
Right? What? What are you talking about, Manic Pixie
But
Dream
that
Girl?
makes sense because you have more opportunities. You don't just have the 90 minutes. So I think that's also part of the problem. The 90 to 2 hours, you know,
The constricting.
that says, okay, we got to just sum everything up and everything has to be stereotypical.
Right.
And we don't have to do that when you have a miniseries.
It's nice.
Television show.
Yeah, exactly. You can explore it.
think movie makers can do better because
Yeah.
I feel like they've nudged places to try to do better, but
Yeah.
it's just not done right. Probably because there aren't enough women directors and women getting to tell their stories.
Yeah. And being able to have the chance to experiment with a new type of narrative. Because
Right.
if it doesn't work, they're done.
I think that's more of it than
Yeah.
the fact that it's not women. It's
Yeah.
that the people in power, which are mostly men, but even some women, you know, are saying this is what has worked in the past and this is what we have to stick
Don't
to.
deviate from the
Yeah.
formula. The formula works.
Yeah.
Because we are talking about millions and millions of dollars
Yeah.
that you're playing with, but at the same time, it's
And they
like
want
it
to
is
play
a,
it safe.
it is a story. You know,
Yeah.
experiment with a story. Test the story out. I mean, you can make like little, you know what I mean, movies and not movies. You can test the script around to a variety of people to see if this experimental thing can work and get more eyeballs on it. Or you can even do it like TV does to a certain extent with a team of writers is the other aspect too. And I think that's a lot that helps with television is that when you have a team of writers, you have different ways to look at relationships and different ways to look at gender roles to a certain extent too.
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, well, my husband, you know, it's like, no, my husband would never do that, or mine would, or my girlfriend's like this. And you know what I mean? It helps more people in the room.
I feel like a lot of writers and directors and people in the industry have latched onto the idea of a strong female character.
Right.
But one of the articles I read was talking about how in lots of films that role loses meaning
Yeah.
because
Really? And
yeah, because it's there as like it's not given a meaningful connection to the story. You just have maybe your, especially in romantic
Wonder Woman.
movies,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have maybe your main character, and then she has a sidekick that's like some badass, strong woman, but she's not really an integral part of the story. Or like you were saying, the strong woman character has to be perfection.
Yeah.
yeah.
They cannot
Yep.
be messed up at all.
It has to be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm specifically thinking of Sigourney Weaver in Alien and
Oh, yeah.
Aliens and all the other Alien movies that she was in. And did she had flaws? No, she was pretty much perfection.
Not many.
She was perfection.
She was almost two-dimensional because she was almost machine. You know what I mean? She has this. She has a little bit of a backstory. She was written as a male character
Yes, that's
first.
what I was going to say. It was originally written for a male
Not much
character.
change. The name didn't even change.
And I forget the reason. You probably know the reason why they decided to cast her instead. And that
James
studios,
Cameron was married to Catherine Bigelow at the time.
and the studios were like, no, and they're like, yes,
Right.
and they got their way. And
Right.
but she's a brilliant actress.
She
so,
nailed it, though.
Yeah.
But I still always think of that character as I needed more to her than just a killing machine, almost in a sense of. But
Yeah.
with the second one where she's taking care of the little girl, it's like, okay, so I get she's a mother that kills things like a machine. Okay, cool. I
And she
get two
kills
things.
other mothers
Two things.
of aliens.
Right. I know mother versus mother, and I'm like, only a dude would have thought of this. Mother versus mother. It's like, thanks, man. So close, but just bring it on back. The one thing that always bothers me with the strong female characters is that a lot of times the movies that I end up seeing, it's a sole woman.
Yeah.
That's the part that irritates
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
It's Wonder Woman she's with four guys. And it's she's Wonder Woman, but she's with four guys and she's not talking to other women. And a lot of times, even with these manic pixie dream girl scenarios and things like that, it's the only woman in the room. I mean, Princess Leia, the only woman like in the galaxy, for crying out loud. So it's kind of like, oh, cool, very strong, but by herself. Hold on a second.
Everybody else is a man.
So you can be strong, but just one of you at a time. So it's like, hold on. So that's where it gets me.
I love that point because, yeah, that's exactly what it was talking about how it lacks complexity.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a strong woman character, but if it's just perfection, then we're missing that.
You can't attain that
complexity,
either.
Yeah.
Female friendships, other important aspects like that.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I know I don't like to admit it, but women aren't perfect.
Exactly. And we're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be
No.
enough.
We're human. Yeah.
But also, if we got to tell our complex stories the way that men have got to explore their complex stories, oh, that would be a different kind of cinema. It might be interesting to, I don't know, everybody. Just a thought, crazy as it is.
Yeah.
I love that thought.
I do too.
It'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. My very last thing I wanted to talk about was what we kind of all zoomed in on at first was how does it affect your expectations for the relationships you do have?
Yeah, true.
The research I found in this, can you guess what age group is most affected?
Ooh, I want to say teenagers, but is it not?
It is.
Is it? Okay. I didn't know if it was like older thinking about dating.
Really?
No, it's
It's almost thinking
under
about
40,
dating.
especially in those teens, early 20s. Really, their thoughts being that that's because they don't have a lot of real relationships to pull experience from.
Yeah. So movies
what
and
they
TV.
have to learn from,
It's what I
is
learned
movies
relationships
and-
from.
in TV. So they're really wanting to emphasize that that's a kind of delicate age where you need to try to be aware of how these things are influencing you because you don't have your own experiences to draw from.
Yeah.
Like relationships are not just the happy 90 minutes you see on TV. They're
Right.
a long-term commitment, and that stuff fades away.
My first glimpse of what a relationship was Princess Leia and Han Solo of I love you, I know.
Right.
That's what I thought and that you yell at each other the entire time and then you force kiss her.
Oh, you see?
This is what you know what I mean? It's like, so it's that
But that's
sort
romantic.
of, that's what I was
Yeah.
told. The
Yeah.
music swells and all of a sudden you see her,
Playing
breathless. That must be what a relationship is. And it's like, let me just say my first couple of relationships did not go well. I had to see some other movies and then read some books and then do some therapy to figure out what a real relationship was and to undo what I had learned.
Well, I was very into the romantic comedies as a young person, and I read romance novels.
Yes, you did. The bodice rippers.
I have
Embrace it, Katie.
I've reformed.
Hey, now, have you guys seen Outlander?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's
You're-
basically soft porn.
Yes.
We're finishing. it gets better, but the first season or two, they're awfully rapey.
That's what you were
Yeah,
telling me because I
it's
was thinking
very
about
rapey.
watching it. You're
It's
like, it's like
very-
every episode is rapey, and I'm like,
every episode. It's like the only
It's like
thing
they have a
are
fantasy to be
threatening.
raped.
oh no,
And not
Both-
just the women, the men.
Yeah, men. It's like
It's
that
equal
is the
opportunity.
It's all about power and
worst
domination.
thing
Oh,
that could
then it's
ever
about power. Yeah,
happen to
always.
a character
Pain.
ever.
Pain is a big thing.
They're just.
So there's
It gets
an
better.
S&M underlying
It's
thing.
way less. Like we're on season 4.
okay.
I don't think there's been any rapey stuff in season 4 so far.
They got their shock value basically out of their system, and then they just
But
retain
that
viewers from then
first
on.
couple- and everything else about it is great.
Yeah.
The costumes are great.
Yeah.
The accents and everything else is great. And I'm just sitting there oh my god.
If I go through another rape scene,
oh man, I'm everything else is really good.
Notice we still keep watching it.
maybe next one will be less
I
rapey.
know. And I'm pretty sure the books are just as bad.
Maybe they aren't. Wouldn't it be funny if there was none whatsoever? And they just peppered that in for funsies. Because that's what you do. Funsies.
Well, I think we've definitely highlighted a lots of ways that relationships are represented and how that can affect our
Yeah.
perception. One of the ones they say is the worst is that relationships are easy or they take
Oh,
little
goodness.
effort.
Oh, please.
Yes.
I think it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do is maintain a relationship.
Some of the best advice I ever got before I got married. I've been married for 31 years.
Sweet.
I was 4 years
You were
old.
you
I
4
was
years old.
4.
Of course you were.
I was
Absolutely.
2.
I was 4. I was 4 years old. But it was, there's no such thing as falling in and out of love.
Right.
Loving is a choice.
Ah, there you go.
And there are
See?
days when I am like,
It's a hard choice.
I really hate this person. And that's okay.
Right, exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah, there's an
Like you
ebb and
said.
flow to it.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Everybody, you're trying to live with another person who is also changing and learning
person,
and figuring
yeah.
out who they are and what they want to do, and they're having good days and bad days, and you've got two of you, And you know what? You're not always going to be in sync. And so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But, you just try again and try again.
Absolutely. It's real and it's complex. They also talk about how they really give the message that to be self-fulfilled, you have to have a relationship that's perfect.
No! Then you'll never be self-fulfilled because the perfection will never happen.
You have to be in a relationship at all. Like, you're
True.
not a complete person unless you're a couple.
That's bull.
Yeah, it's total bull. I went through a phase where I'm like, I gotta fix what this is before I put that baggage on somebody else. Because I'm bringing a nightmare to the table if I even told when I met my husband, I'm like, I'm still working on things. I don't know if now is a good time. And he's like, what? And I'm like, do you really want to know what I'm working on right now? And he stayed. And then I introduced him to my family and I'm like, you can go the day after we get home. Because it was a family reunion. So it was everyone at once. It was all the crazy in one room for 4 hours.
He stayed?
He stayed.
Was this before or after you were married?
Before we got married, because he had to know what he was getting into. So we were just dating, and I'm like, I'll bring you home for the holidays, where everybody's at super crazy levels. And he saw it, and I just went, told you. And he did go, how are you so different than them? I'm like, a lot of work. I told you I had to do a lot of work.
Therapy. Everyone deserves it.
Exactly. But you marry into it. And so the crazy comes when you least expect it. He just had to know. And he stayed. So I kept him.
That's awesome.
He's very brave or very dumb. Either way, I'm keeping him. So it's fine.
I think our entire conversation really illuminated what's needed in romantic comedies and in romantic movies, and that's realness.
Yes.
Complexity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Showing the good, bad, and the ugly of a relationship and how to just make it work.
Yeah, and showing what's healthy and what's safe.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My
People
big
are
pet
drawn to
peeve
that.
is all the ones where it's, I'm going to lie about who I am to try and get this girl, and it's going to end out okay.
Oh, yeah. And it's men and women in the teen movies a lot of times. Yeah.
Like, you try that shit on me, Buster?
You're gone.
You're gone.
Yeah.
Like, but
Fair.
it's okay because you you
No,
don't know
it's
this
not.
person at all.
It's not okay.
Exactly. This is not an audition where you get to pretend to be a character and then, haha, you have fallen for me. I got the part. And now, here's who I really am. No.
Well, that wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool thing as Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast continues. Thanks for listening.
For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gal's Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.